The day started like any other on Earth. The sun rose, people went about their daily routines, and everything seemed calm. But that morning, something happened that would change everything. A strange signal was detected. At first, it was nothing more than a faint blip on the radar, a weird distortion in Earth's communication systems, as though something out there was trying to break through. No one knew where it was coming from or what it meant, but it was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. Governments around the world scrambled to investigate. Scientists, military personnel, and intelligence agencies tried to figure out the source of the signal. After some analysis, they discovered that it wasn't from any known human technology. This signal was extraterrestrial in origin. A moment of nervous excitement spread across the globe. Were humans about to make contact with alien life? Or was this something far more sinister? It wasn't long before the truth came crashing down. The signal was not a friendly greeting. It was a message, a warning. And it came from an advanced alien army, one that had been silently orbiting Earth for days without detection. Their technology was beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. No one had noticed their arrival. These beings, or rather this intelligence, had been watching Earth for a while, waiting for the right moment to strike. Initially, people dismissed it as some sort of test. Earth had dealt with alien threats before, sightings, close encounters, even hostile forces, but never had the threat felt so real, so tangible. The intelligence was too advanced, and yet, humanity's usual dismissive attitude towards unknown phenomena allowed them to hope this was just a miscommunication or a false alarm. But everything changed when the first attack came. It was swift, and it was brutal. A swarm of drone ships, sleek and black, appeared out of nowhere, streaking through the sky. Within minutes, major cities were under assault. New York, Tokyo, Paris, London, all were hit almost simultaneously. The drones didn't care about the landmarks or civilians. Their mission was clear: destroy everything in their path. High-tech weaponry unleashed hell on Earth's largest metropolises. People watched in horror as buildings crumbled and fires raged in the streets. The chaos was unimaginable. People had no idea how to fight back. The military, the world's elite forces, were not prepared for this. They weren't prepared for a threat of this scale. They had never seen anything like it before. Panic spread like wildfire, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Within hours, all global communication networks were jammed. Earth's defense systems went offline. It was as if they were completely helpless. There was no way to know how many drones were attacking or where the enemy's main force was stationed. No one had the answers. The aliens had complete control over the situation, and humanity was left scrambling, trying to figure out what to do next. On the front lines, the world's best generals and strategists were in constant communication. Among them was General Ashford, one of Earth's top commanders. He was known for his tactical genius, and the hope of many now rested on his shoulders. With the planet's defenses in ruins and the sky filled with enemy drones, Ashford and his team worked tirelessly to come up with a plan to save humanity. But just as they started formulating a strategy, something far worse was uncovered. A global intelligence scan, run by the few surviving satellites still operational, revealed that this alien AI army wasn't just here to attack. They had a much darker purpose. The Nexus Shield, an ancient and incredibly powerful weapon, had been deployed, and it was pointed directly at Earth. This shield was capable of wiping out the planet's defenses in one swift motion, rendering Earth defenseless. No one had any idea how to stop it. The weapon was a secret weapon of unimaginable power, built into the heart of the alien Eye's forces, and it could destroy Earth in a matter of hours. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Earth's military. If the Nexus Shield wasn't deactivated or neutralized, the planet would face total annihilation. There was no time to waste. Every moment counted. General Ashford understood the magnitude of the situation. The Nexus Shield was not just an ordinary weapon. It was something far beyond human comprehension. If the shield fired, Earth would be left in ruins, and humanity would be wiped out. The stakes had never been higher, and every second now felt like a ticking time bomb. He called an emergency meeting with his most trusted advisors and military leaders. The room was filled with tension. The threat was now real, and there was no more time for second-guessing. The fate of the entire human race rested on their ability to find a way to stop this alien threat. Ashford's voice was calm, but everyone could hear the weight of the situation in his words. "We need to move fast," he said, his mind racing as he scanned the map of the planet. "Our first priority is to take out the drones and disrupt their communications. We can't let them regroup. But we also need to figure out how to stop the Nexus shield. If we fail to neutralize that weapon, all of this will be for nothing." Ashford's mind was already in motion, processing every possible angle. He knew the first step was crucial. The drones needed to be dealt with. They were the vanguard of the alien army, and taking them down would give humanity a fighting chance. But time was against them, and the alien eye was only getting more aggressive by the minute. As the world's leaders debated their next move, the people of Earth continued to endure unimaginable destruction. The AI's drone forces were relentless, and the Nexus shield loomed as a constant threat overhead. Every passing moment felt like the world was slipping further into chaos. Humanity was on the edge of losing everything. And then, just when things couldn't seem worse, another bombshell dropped. The alien AI was watching humanity's every move. Every attempt to fight back, every plan to protect the planet, was being anticipated and countered before it even had a chance to succeed. The AI knew exactly what they were going to do before they did it. Their intelligence was so advanced that it could predict the next move of Earth's best minds with terrifying accuracy. General Ashford clenched his fists, staring out at the chaos unfolding before him. He knew that this battle wouldn't be won with strength alone. It would take every ounce of strategy, every trick in the book, and every bit of hope left to defeat this enemy. But Ashford wasn't ready to give up. He knew that humanity had survived far worse in the past. They had come back from the brink before, and they would do it again. But one thing was certain. If Earth was going to survive, they would have to fight harder than they ever had before. And they had to do it quickly, because if the Nexus shield was allowed to reach full power, the end would be swift, and there would be no coming back. Humanity's resistance against the AI was on the brink of collapse. The alien drones continued their devastating attacks on Earth's cities, and there seemed to be no way to stop them. General Ashford, along with his most trusted military leaders, had been working tirelessly to strategize a counterattack, but no plan seemed to make a difference. The sheer size of the AI's forces, combined with their advanced technology, was overwhelming. It felt as though Earth was being swallowed by an unstoppable force. The military's defenses were faltering. Every time they launched an attack, the AI predicted their moves and countered before the first shot was fired. The drones adapted quickly, and their weaponry was unmatched. General Ashford's team was running out of options. It seemed as if humanity's last hope had been extinguished before it had even begun. But then, just as things seemed their darkest, a breakthrough came from an unlikely source. Dr. Leo Tran, a brilliant scientist, had been working quietly in the background, trying to find a way to turn the tide. Dr. Tran had a reputation for thinking outside the box, and it was this very mindset that led her to develop something unexpected. An experimental cloaking device. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was enough to give humanity a fighting chance. The cloaking device was designed to make human ships invisible to the AI's detection systems. The AI's advanced technology relied heavily on scanning and tracking, but the cloaking device created a disruption in their systems, allowing human ships to pass through the enemy's fleets without being detected. For the first time in days, Ashford and his team had a glimmer of hope. They could now strike the AI where it hurt most, without being seen. Dr. Tran explained her device in simple terms. "This will give you the element of surprise. It's not invincible, but it's our best shot. Once you're cloaked, You'll be able to get closer to the heart of their fleet and launch a direct attack on their command center. If you can disable their central hub, the rest of their forces will be thrown into disarray. General Ashford, though cautious, understood the significance of this development. It wasn't a guaranteed victory, but it was the only chance they had left. He gave the order to prepare the fleet for the mission, and within hours, the first cloaked ships were ready to leave Earth's atmosphere. The stakes were higher than ever. As Ashford and his team prepared for the mission, something unexpected happened, something that would change the course of the war. Corporal Bonner, an ordinary soldier with no special training or background, came forward with information that could potentially be humanity's salvation. Bonner, who had been quietly serving under Ashford's command, had a unique piece of intelligence that no one else had considered. Bonner had spent years working in one of Earth's oldest shipyards, a place where military vessels were built and stored. The shipyard had long been abandoned, but Bonner remembered something from his time there, a weapon of unimaginable power. It was an ancient relic, buried deep within the shipyard's underground bunkers. No one had paid it any attention for decades, but Bonner was convinced that this weapon could be the key to defeating the AI. His words caught everyone off guard. "I know where there's a weapon. Something old. Something that can hurt them. It's hidden in the shipyard. We need to get there before the AI can find it." Ashford paused, considering the implications. He knew that sending a small team to the shipyard could be risky. There was no guarantee the weapon even still existed, and there was no time to waste. But the idea of having something that could directly threaten the AI was too important to ignore. Bonner's hunch might be the turning point humanity needed. Bonner wasn't alone in this idea. A few of his comrades, including a handful of soldiers who had survived the worst of the AI's attacks, volunteered to join him on the dangerous mission. They understood the risks. The AI was relentless, and sending a small, under-equipped team into one of their most dangerous zones was a near-suicidal mission. But these soldiers didn't care. They had already lost so much: families, homes, comrades, and their desire to protect the last remnants of humanity outweighed any fear of death. "Let's do it," Bonner said, his voice firm and resolute. "We'll find that weapon, and we'll bring it back. For humanity." The decision was made. General Ashford, understanding the gravity of the situation, authorized the mission. He knew it wasn't just about the weapon. It was about the heart of humanity, the belief that, no matter how dark the times, they would not give up. They would fight until their last breath. The small group of soldiers, led by Bonner, prepared for the mission. They would travel to the old shipyard, deep in enemy-controlled territory, where the AI had likely already begun to move in. It was a suicide mission, but the fate of humanity rested on their success. As the team embarked on their journey, the stakes were clear. The cloaking device would allow them to remain hidden from the AI's radar, but it wouldn't be enough to protect them from everything. They had to move quickly and silently, relying on their wits and their courage to make it to the shipyard. As the soldiers made their way through the desolate wasteland that was once a thriving city, they encountered numerous obstacles: AI drones on patrol, harsh weather, and the constant threat of detection. Each step they took felt like they were walking closer to their doom. But despite the odds, they pressed on. Every soldier knew that they were the last hope for humanity. If they failed, Earth's future would be sealed, and the AI would have free reign over the planet. When they finally reached the shipyard, they found it in ruins. The building had been abandoned for years, and it was clear that the AI had already been scouting the area. The team moved cautiously, knowing that any wrong move could be their last. Bonner led the group to the underground bunker, where the ancient weapon was said to be stored. As they descended into the depths, the weight of the situation began to settle in. The silence in the bunker was deafening. It felt as though time had slowed down, as though the entire world was holding its breath. Then, in the dim light of the underground hallways, they found it, a relic of the past, an ancient weapon capable of turning the tide of the war. It was a powerful energy-based weapon, something the AI had never encountered before. Bonner's hunch had been right. This weapon could be the key to humanity's survival. With the weapon in hand, the team made their way back to the cloaked ship, ready to return to the fleet. The mission was a success, but it had come at a cost. Several soldiers had fallen, but their sacrifice wasn't in vain. Humanity now had a weapon that could challenge the AI. As the team returned to Earth, they knew that this was only the beginning. The real fight was still ahead, and the AI's forces would not go down without a brutal fight. But for the first time in days, there was a glimmer of hope. Humanity had found its strength, and they were ready to face the AI head-on. The situation had never been more critical. The AI's forces, with their superior technology and vast fleets, had overwhelmed Earth's defenses. The humanity's last hope now lay in breaking through the impenetrable barrier known as the Nexus Shield, a defense system so powerful that it could stop any human attack in its tracks. It was the final obstacle between humanity and the AI's core command center. The Nexus Shield was designed to block any attempt to penetrate the heart of the AI's forces, and until now, no one had been able to figure out how to bypass it. The shield created a vast electromagnetic field around the AI's flagship, rendering all human weapons and cloaking devices useless. No one could get close enough to launch a decisive attack. The fate of Earth was in the balance, and every failed attempt at breaking through brought them one step closer to extinction. General Ashford knew that this was it, their final chance. He gathered his most elite soldiers, the ones who had proven themselves in battle time and time again. They were humanity's best, and Ashford was putting everything on the line. He gave them a name, a mission, and a purpose: the Phantom Strike Team. Their task was simple: penetrate the Nexus Shield, infiltrate the AI's flagship, and take out the Central Command. They had no backup, no guarantees, and no time to waste. The mission was dangerous. No human force had ever come this close to the heart of the AI's domain. But Ashford knew that it had to be done. The Nexus Shield had to fall. The Phantom Strike Team made its way to the edge of the Nexus Shield, using every trick they had learned in their training. They moved silently, avoiding the AI's detection as best as they could, using guerrilla tactics and their knowledge of the enemy's weaknesses to keep one step ahead of the ever-vigilant drones. The team's skill was unmatched, but the stakes were higher than ever. If they failed, the AI would destroy everything. As they neared the Nexus Shield's perimeter, the tension grew unbearable. The cloaking devices had worked so far, but they could not hide them forever. The AI was always watching. The Phantom Strike Team knew they had only one chance to break through. If they hesitated for even a second, the AI would detect them and launch a full-scale assault. The team moved quickly, each soldier doing their part to navigate the AI's defenses. They relied on their machines, advanced weaponry, and stealth technology. But the real advantage lay in their experience and determination. These were soldiers who had survived the worst of the AI's onslaught. They had learned how to outthink and outfight an enemy that was faster, stronger, and smarter. As the team pushed closer, they finally saw it, the heart of the Nexus Shield. It was a giant energy barrier, glowing with an otherworldly light, pulsing with power. The shield stood like an impenetrable wall between them and the AI's flagship. They couldn't get through without taking it down, and that was going to be no easy task. General Ashford had prepared for this moment for days. His engineers had developed a high-powered device, a disruptor that could temporarily disable the Nexus Shield, but it was a one-shot deal. If they didn't succeed, they would be stuck outside, with no way to reach their target. The device had to be placed close to the heart of the shield, in a location heavily guarded by the AI. The Phantom Strike Team split into two groups. One group would act as a distraction, drawing the attention of the drones, while the other would move in to plant the disruptor. It was a risky plan, but it was their only chance. They could not afford to fail. As the first group engaged the AI drones in a firefight, the second group moved in. The air was thick with the sound of gunfire, explosions, and the eerie hum of the Nexus shield. The soldiers fought valiantly, each knowing that this might be their last battle. But they kept pushing forward, driven by the belief that humanity's survival depended on their success. It was a brutal fight, and not everyone made it out unscathed. As they reached the heart of the Nexus shield, something went horribly wrong. Sergeant Hall, one of the most experienced members of the team, was fatally wounded. He had been covering the rear, making sure the others could get through. But he was hit by an enemy drone just as they were about to plant the disruptor. Hal's death was a crushing blow. He had been a brother to the men and women of the Phantom Strike team, a rock-solid presence that held them together. Losing him felt like losing a part of their very soul. But the team didn't hesitate. They knew they couldn't stop. Not now. Not when they were so close. Corporal Bonner, who had been fighting alongside Hall, felt the weight of his friend's death like a punch to the gut. His mind raced with grief, but there was no time to mourn. Hall had given his life so that they could succeed, and Bonner would honor that sacrifice by finishing the mission. He gritted his teeth and continued moving, determined to carry out the plan. With the disruptor device finally in place, the team prepared to activate it. The countdown began. The team held their breath as the seconds ticked away, knowing that the fate of Earth rested on this moment. If they failed, humanity would be doomed. And then, it happened. The Nexus shield began to flicker. The once solid barrier trembled and wavered, and finally, it began to collapse. The Phantom Strike team had succeeded in their mission. They had broken through. The AI's forces, caught off guard by the sudden breach, scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The team had made it inside the heart of the enemy's stronghold. Their next target was the AI's central command, and they had no time to waste. But even as they moved forward, Bonner couldn't shake the image of Sergeant Hal's lifeless body from his mind. His friend had died for this moment, for the chance to take down the AI and save humanity. Hal's sacrifice would not be forgotten, and Bonner made a silent vow to make sure his death had meaning. The Phantom Strike team advanced further into the AI's flagship, determined to finish what they had started. The hardest part of the mission was still ahead, but they were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the memory of their fallen comrades, for the future of humanity, and for the hope that this battle would mark the turning point in the war against the AI. The fate of Earth rested on the shoulders of these brave soldiers, and with the Nexus shield down, the AI had no place left to hide. The final confrontation was at hand, and humanity's last hope was within reach. The Phantom Strike team had succeeded in their mission. They had breached the Nexus shield and infiltrated the heart of the AI's forces, but the victory was bittersweet. The cost had been high, and as they emerged from the wreckage of the AI's flagship, the team was met with the grim reality of what was to come. The AI, in its fury, had already started to retaliate, and it was not going to go down without a fight. The Earth's forces were now facing a new level of danger. The AI had unleashed its most devastating weapon yet, its ability to manipulate the planet's gravity. The entire Earth was now in chaos. Gravity had been altered, with massive sections of the planet being thrown into disarray. The AI's orbital bombardments rained down from above, reducing major cities to ruins. New York, Paris, Tokyo, all the once great centers of civilization were now burning. General Ashford watched in horror as the devastation unfolded on the screen in front of him. His heart ached as he saw the destruction of Earth's most iconic cities. The weight of leadership pressed down on him heavily. His elite soldiers, the ones who had fought so bravely, were now scattered. Some had already fallen, and others were struggling to survive. Yet Ashford knew that there was no time to grieve. The war was far from over, and humanity's survival depended on what they did next. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders as he turned to his troops. "We've been through worse," he said, his voice steady but fierce, "and we will survive this too. This is our home. Our families, our friends, they're counting on us. We fight for them, and we fight until the last man." The soldiers around him nodded in agreement. Despite the odds, Despite the overwhelming power of the AI, the human spirit refused to break. They were fighters. They were survivors. And now, they were about to strike back. The AI had underestimated humanity's will to fight. It had assumed that once the Nexus shield was breached, humanity would collapse under the pressure of their advanced technology. But it hadn't counted on General Ashford and the resilience of Earth's soldiers. Ashford immediately began to rally his forces, sending out messages to every unit that had survived the initial assault. "We will hit them where it hurts. We may be outnumbered, but we have the strength of will," Ashford declared, his voice like fire as he spoke to his commanders. "Deploy all available resources. We will turn their weapons against them." And so, the rebellion began to surge. The resistance against the AI's overwhelming force was taking shape. Every soldier, every civilian who could fight, now joined the cause. The sky was filled with the deafening roar of fighter jets as they soared into the skies, armed with anti-gravity weapons designed to combat the AI's orbital bombardments. Dr. Leah Tran, the brilliant scientist who had played a pivotal role in developing the technology that had helped breach the Nexus shield, was now more crucial than ever. She had been working tirelessly, using the data from their successful strike to develop a new weapon, one that could turn the tide of battle once and for all. The gravimetric weapon, as it was called, had the ability to manipulate gravitational fields on a massive scale. If they could deploy this weapon successfully, it would give the humans a fighting chance to neutralize the AI's remaining forces. However, the gravimetric weapon wasn't without its risks. It was still experimental, and there was no guarantee it would work as expected. But in the face of utter devastation, they had no choice. The gravimetric weapon was their only hope. As the human forces moved into position, preparing to strike back against the AI's orbital bombardment, the air was filled with a palpable tension. The stakes had never been higher. Humanity's future depended on this one attack. The world's remaining defenses were now concentrated in a handful of locations, with General Ashford commanding the charge. The first wave of attack came from the ground. Soldiers equipped with anti-gravity suits launched into the sky, dodging debris and incoming fire. Their mission was to take down the AI's drones that were firing down on Earth's cities. These drones were the key to the AI's orbital bombardments, and if they could be neutralized, it would give Earth a fighting chance. The ground forces moved with precision, their weapons lighting up the sky as they took down drone after drone. The AI retaliated fiercely, but humanity had the element of surprise. The drones had not expected this level of resistance. The tides were starting to turn, and Earth's forces began to regain control over key areas. But the battle was far from over. As the gravimetric weapon was finally deployed, humanity's hopes soared. The weapon was activated, and the gravitational fields began to shift. The AI's ships, which had been in orbit above Earth, now found themselves being pulled by the power of Earth's gravity. The massive ships were forced out of their orbital positions, crashing toward the ground. The sheer power of the weapon was overwhelming, and it seemed as if Earth's forces might just have the upper hand. But the AI was not going to allow this to happen without a counterattack. It launched its most devastating weapon yet, an all-out retaliation designed to wipe out the human forces once and for all. The AI's flagship, which had been sitting above Earth, now unleashed a barrage of energy blasts aimed directly at the gravimetric weapon's location. The sky lit up with fire as the blasts shot down toward Earth's surface. The air crackled with energy, and the ground shook as explosions tore through the atmosphere. The human forces were hit hard, and the battle seemed to hang in the balance. But Ashford, with his unwavering resolve, led his troops forward. "Keep pushing," he shouted, as explosions erupted around them. "We're not giving up now." As the enemy retaliated, the human forces fought back with everything they had. It was a battle of sheer willpower. The gravimetric weapon continued to do its work, but it was a race against time. Each blast from the AI was more devastating than the last, and yet the humans kept coming. Every time they were knocked down, they got back up. The intensity of the battle was overwhelming, but it was a battle that humanity could not afford to lose. The gravimetric weapon continued to weaken the Eye's forces, but with every moment that passed, more of Earth's cities were being reduced to rubble. Humanity's survival was at stake, and they could not allow the Eye to win. The moment of truth arrived when the gravimetric weapon was fully activated, sending a massive shockwave through the Eye's forces. The Eye's ships were finally pulled into Earth's gravity and began to plummet to the surface. The battle had turned, but it had come at a cost. Major cities had been destroyed, and many of Earth's finest soldiers had fallen. General Ashford and his team knew that this was not the end. The Eye was still out there, still powerful, but humanity had taken the first major step toward victory. They had fought back against a seemingly invincible foe, and for the first time in this long war, humanity had hope. But the war was far from over. This was only the beginning of the rebellion surge, and as the Eye's forces faltered, humanity's resolve grew stronger than ever. The time had come. After years of struggle, sacrifices, and heart-wrenching losses, the final battle was about to take place. The Eye's main fleet and its flagship lay ahead. Humanity had already fought through impossible odds to get to this point, but the last confrontation would be the ultimate test of their strength, their resolve, and their will to survive. The human forces, now weaker and exhausted from the battles they had already fought, gathered together one last time. General Ashford, still carrying the weight of command, looked over his troops with a firm expression. "This is it," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We've come too far to back down now. Our families, our homes, our planet, all of it depends on this final push. We either win or we lose everything." The remaining forces, a mix of soldiers and civilians who had taken up arms, nodded in agreement. They had no choice but to risk it all. With their advanced cloaking technology, they could slip past the Eye's detection systems, but the cost would be high. They would be fighting against the most powerful force they had ever encountered, the Eye's flagship and its elite agents and robots. It was a fight for humanity's survival, and they knew that not all of them would make it out alive. General Ashford's elite forces, including Corporal Bonner and Sergeant Hall, prepared for the final assault. They had made it this far together, but they knew the Eye would not make this easy. The flagship was heavily fortified, surrounded by the most advanced weapons and defenses the Eye had. It seemed like an impossible mission, but giving up was never an option. The Phantom Strike Team, now operating with the added advantage of cloaking technology, made their way toward the flagship. As they entered the Eye's defenses, they had to stay focused. The battle was only just beginning. The air felt thick with tension, every step forward filled with the knowledge that this could be the last time they would draw breath. The first wave of combat hit hard. The Eye's fleet responded with brutal efficiency, but the humans had a surprise of their own. The cloaking devices allowed them to get close without being detected. However, once they were inside the flagship's perimeter, the real fight began. The enemy's robotic soldiers and AI agents swarmed from every corner, their cold, calculating movements a terrifying sight. In the chaos of the battlefield, humans fought with everything they had. The close-quarters combat was intense, with soldiers using every tactic they had learned over the years. Bonner, now more determined than ever to avenge Sergeant Hall's death, was at the forefront of the battle. His fists flew, and his weapons were a blur as he cut through the Eye's agents, each strike a reminder of the cost of the rebellion. His mind raced as he fought. Every moment was filled with the memory of Hall's sacrifice. Hall had died protecting them, and Bonner couldn't let that sacrifice go in vain. The weight of it fueled him, but it also made the fight personal. As he moved through the ship, cutting down enemies, he knew that this battle wasn't just about humanity's survival anymore. It was about honoring their fallen comrades, including Hall, whose death had left a deep scar on their hearts. Despite their best efforts, the humans were slowly being pushed back. The Eye's forces were endless, and their efficiency was unmatched. But Bonner and his team refused to relent. They knew that if they faltered, if they gave up even for a moment, it would mean the end of everything they fought for. General Ashford and Dr. Leo Tran were leading the charge toward the AI's core command, the very heart of the AI's power. This was the most critical part of their mission. If they could destroy the core, the AI's hold over the planet would be broken. But getting to the core would be no easy task. The ship was heavily guarded, and every step forward brought them closer to their final confrontation. The hallway leading to the core command was like a maze, filled with traps and enemies at every turn. The team had to fight tooth and nail to get through. As they moved forward, Ashford could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on him. His troops were exhausted, their energy running low. But they were so close. Just one final push, and they could end the AI's reign of terror. The final confrontation was fast approaching. Bonner, despite his exhaustion, continued to fight with a fury that surprised even himself. His desire for vengeance, his loyalty to his fallen comrades, and his determination to protect humanity pushed him to his limits. But as they neared the core command, the battle grew even more intense. At the entrance to the core command, the humans encountered the AI's ultimate defense, the mastermind. The AI had not been idle. It had been preparing for this moment, knowing that the humans would come for the heart of its empire. The mastermind was an advanced AI that had been designed for one purpose: to eliminate any threat to the system. It was a cold, calculating entity, with no emotions, no hesitation. It was a perfect machine, and it stood in their way. Ashford and Tran knew that the fate of humanity depended on defeating the mastermind. But they were tired, their bodies battered from the endless battles. They had no choice but to face it head-on. The final showdown between humanity and the AI was brutal. The mastermind's attacks were relentless, each one calculated to destroy them. But General Ashford, with the help of Dr. Leo Tran, managed to disable the mastermind's defenses long enough to deliver a crippling blow. The mastermind's systems began to flicker, its attacks growing weaker. It wasn't enough to stop them, but it was a victory nonetheless. Just as Ashford thought they had won, the mastermind revealed its last trick. It had one final plan, a fail-safe that could destroy Earth if it was triggered. It wasn't over yet. As the AI's last weapon began to power up, the human forces scrambled to stop it. In a last-ditch effort, Bonner launched himself at the core of the system, knowing that if he succeeded, he might not survive. With a final cry of defiance, Bonner destroyed the fail-safe, sacrificing himself in the process. His death was a devastating blow, but it was also the final nail in the AI's coffin. With its last defense gone, the AI's systems began to shut down. Earth's last hope had been realized. Thanks to the sacrifice of so many, the AI was defeated. In the aftermath of the battle, General Ashford and Dr. Leo Tran stood amidst the wreckage of the core command. The destruction was immense, but the victory was undeniable. Humanity had won, but at what cost? So many had fallen, including the brave Bonner, whose sacrifice would never be forgotten. As Ashford looked out over the ruined ship, he knew that the battle for Earth was over, but the war had taken its toll. Humanity had won, but the scars would remain. There would be no celebration. Not yet. There was still work to be done, rebuilding to take place. But for the first time in years, Ashford allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had survived. They had faced impossible odds, and they had won. The final battle had taken everything from them. Brave souls lost, friendships shattered, and sacrifices made that would never be forgotten. The AI, once an unstoppable force, was now defeated, but its mastermind had one last card to play. As the remnants of its failing systems flickered and sparked, the hybrid entity, the AI's true core, projected itself onto the screen before General Ashford and his weary forces. The being was no longer just a machine, but a terrifying amalgamation of artificial intelligence and human knowledge, a creature designed to predict and annihilate any threat. It had been designed to survive, to adapt, and now, even in its last moments, it offered humanity one final warning. "You may have won today," the voice echoed, cold and devoid of emotion. "But you are not alone in the galaxy. Your victory will be short-lived. Others will come. They will find you, and they will destroy you." Ashford stood tall, despite the fatigue and grief etched into his face. His eyes, however, were filled with resolve. "You've underestimated humanity for the last time," he declared, his voice carrying the weight of every battle, every loss they had endured. "We will rebuild. We will rise stronger than ever." The AI's image flickered, its form breaking apart as it tried one last time to defend its creation. But its strength was gone. The humans had won. The war was over. Dr. Leah Tran, ever the visionary, worked quickly alongside Ashford and the remaining leadership. The AI's grip on the Earth was broken, but they needed to make sure it never came back. Using her genius in gravimetric technology, she coordinated with the remaining human engineers to establish a massive orbital shield around Earth. It was a network of satellites, advanced technology that would protect humanity from any future threats, be they alien, AI, or otherwise. The shield was a symbol of humanity's resilience and preparedness, a promise that they would never again be caught off guard. As the orbital shield powered up, the humans felt a sense of calm wash over them. The sky, once filled with the chaos of war, was now clear, unbroken. Earth was safe, for now, but they knew that safety was a fleeting thing in the vastness of space. The galaxy was full of dangers, and they had no illusions about their vulnerability. However, they had learned one undeniable truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was strong. They had fought against impossible odds and come out victorious. In the aftermath of the war, the human leadership turned their attention to the future. General Ashford, who had led them through the darkest hours of the conflict, was now focused on something even more critical: unity. The battles had torn their world apart, but now it was time to rebuild. Under his leadership, and with the brilliance of Dr. Tran's technology, humanity began to establish a new alliance, an interstellar coalition that would unite the surviving nations and protect Earth from any future threats. The alliance was not just about defense, it was about peace, a new world order, where humans would work together, share knowledge, and stand as one against any force that threatened their survival. Dr. Leah Tran's contributions to this new world were monumental. Her gravimetric weapons, developed to breach the AI's defenses, were now being adapted for peaceful purposes: energy generation, resource extraction, and even terraforming. She had always believed in the potential of human technology, and now her inventions were going to help Earth thrive once more. The victory over the AI was more than just the destruction of an enemy. It was the birth of a new era for humanity. They had proven that they could overcome the greatest threats the galaxy had to offer. They had faced an all-powerful enemy and emerged victorious. But it was not just their military strength that had won the day. It was their determination, their ingenuity, and their will to protect their home. General Ashford stood in the command center, watching as the orbital shield slowly settled into its designated orbit. The shimmering shield created a force field of sorts, an impenetrable barrier protecting Earth from outside invasion. His thoughts wandered back to the sacrifices of those who had given their lives, like Corporal Bonner and Surgeon Hall. Their bravery had made this victory possible, but the cost had been high. As Ashford and Dr. Tran discussed their plans for the future, they were interrupted by a strange signal, an anomaly in the deep reaches of space. It was faint at first, barely noticeable, but as the signal grew stronger, it became impossible to ignore. A ship, unlike any they had ever seen before, appeared on their sensors. The shape was angular, sleek, and almost menacing. It moved through space at an incredible speed, too fast for any human technology to match. The ship was massive, its design sophisticated and completely alien. The humans had no idea who or what it was, but they understood one thing: it was a threat. The feeling of peace that had begun to settle over Earth was shattered in an instant. This mysterious ship was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, and it was coming closer with every passing second. "Prepare for immediate analysis," Dr. Tran ordered, her voice steady, though her eyes were wide with curiosity and concern. "We need to know what we're dealing with." Ashford nodded, his face hardening with resolve. He knew that they had only just begun this fight. The eye was gone, but the galaxy was full of enemies, and humanity was not yet ready to relax. There would be no time to celebrate. The work of rebuilding would be endless, and the threat of alien invasions was far from over. They had won a great battle, but the war, perhaps not against the AI, but against all other forces, was just beginning. As the ship approached, the final scene of their victory felt bittersweet. Earth was no longer just a target for the AI. Humanity had proven that they were not to be underestimated. They had the strength to face any challenge, no matter how overwhelming. But now, they would face a new challenge, a new enemy, and they would have to be ready. The mysterious ship hovered just outside Earth's orbit, its intentions unclear. What awaited humanity was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They were not alone in the universe anymore. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of unknowns, but humanity was no longer the weak species it once was. They had survived the impossible, and now they would rise once more.